Good afternoon. My name is Rabbi Moshe Edelman. I'm from Riverdale, New York, and I'm delighted to be here in Berkshire Hills. The topic that each one of the days that I'm going to be speaking we're calling them standalone presentations. It's by itself. So if you weren't here yesterday, it's okay. And if you won't be here tomorrow, that's also okay. But I hope you will be. So the topic that the title that I gave to today's talk is How Did Judaism Grow Up? And Sheldon was very kind to give you the phrase rudimentary monotheism, which we're going to come back to in just a few moments. But Judaism grew up from its roots. We'll use the word from the Torah, and words are very important. The words, whether they are the written word or whether they're the oral word. And someone recently sent me a kind of a cute thing that I'd like to share with you. Some phrases, and you may know the end of the phrases, and if you know the end of the phrases, I want you to call them out. I want you to participate with me. He called this little thing, heavens to Betsy. But that's not what he called it. That's another one. His was called, this little note was called, heavens to Murgatroyd. I never even heard of that phrase. But there were phrases and words that have come into our lexicon and then have disappeared. Words that are not there. So we don't say heavens to Betsy, and we mostly don't say heavens to Murgatroyd either. We don't know too much anymore about the buggy whip or about a jalopy. Somebody told me that they were talking to a son or grandson, and they said that this guy was driving a jalopy, and the young person said, "What is a jalopy?" And so what she did is she took out a copy of the movie, The Grapes of Wrath, and there's a particular point where she stopped and said, "That's a jalopy." Now we know what a jalopy is. You've got to be old enough to know what they are, what some of these words are. And if you know what a jalopy is, then everything is hunky-dory. Words and phrases that reminds us of the way we word. The way we word. So, there are phrases here like, don't touch that dial. I'm making a carbon copy. You sound like a broken record. That guy hung me out to dry. All kinds of phrases. You've got a lot of moxie. I put on my best bib and tucker and straighten up and fly right. Heavens to Betsy. Gee willikers! Jumpin' Jehoshaphat. Holy moly! We're in like Flynn. I'm living the life of
Riley.
You know, you're a regular guy. No, you're a knucklehead. You're a nincompoop. I wouldn't buy that for all the tea in China. In the good old days, life used to be swell. When's the last time anything was swell? Swell has gone the way of beehives, page boys, a DA, spats, knickers, fedoras, poodle skirts, saddle shoes, pedal pushers. Oh my aching back. Kilroy was
Here.
but he isn't anymore. In Washington Irving's Rip Van Winkle and Kurt Vonnegut's Billy Pilgrim, we have become like them. We have become unstuck in time. We wake up from what was surely a short nap. And before we can say, I'll be a monkey's, or this is a fine kettle of fish you got me into, we discovered that the words we grew up with, the words that seemed omnipresent to us, like oxygen, have vanished with scarcely a notice. Poof go the words of our youth, and the words we've left behind. We blink, and they're gone. So this fellow named Richard Lederer wrote the following little section. Before I get to that, we used to have Mickey Mouse wristwatches. There was a time we had a hula hoop, and there were skate keys, candy cigarettes, little wax bottles with colored sugar water. Nobody ever asked whether, is that kosher in there? And the organ grinder's monkey. Where have all those phrases gone? Long time passing. Where have all those phrases gone? Long time ago. I remember my mother saying, think about those starting Armenians. It's bigger than a bread box. It was banned in Boston. They're very ideal. It's your nickel. Don't forget to pull the chain. Knee high to a grasshopper. Turn of the century. The iron horse, curtain, buggy.
Maiden.
There was a domino effect or a domino theory. Fail-safe. We had words like fail-safe and civil defense. All of that was just fiddlesticks. Ooh, you got cooties. Don't take any wooden nickels. And away we go. Jackie Gleason. Carter had little liver pills. All of these kinds of words that entered into our vocabulary have been swept downstream and into the past, forever into a different river. We of a certain age have been blessed to live in changeful times. For a child, each new word today is like a shiny toy. A toy that has no age. We at the other end of the chronological arc have the advantages of remembering that there are words that once did not exist, and there were words that once strutted and had their hour on the stage and are gone. We have the advantage of aging. Judaism differently. Judaism has words also, words and terms. However, those words and terms have not disappeared. On the contrary, the words and ideas in Judaism become often living examples. Words do not disappear. Instead, words mature, and they go from that rudimentary monotheism, rudimentary monotheism that we heard from Sheldon, and they have matured. We are not, none of us, no matter what our label, whether you're secular or observant, whether you're Reformed, Conservative, Orthodox, Ultra-Orthodox, Hasidic, whatever, nobody is a biblical Jew. None of us. We are all rabbinic Jews. We have the maturation of those words into our own time and into our own life cycle. So I'm going to give you a sheet of paper that have a series of words on them. And what I'd like to do with you is to be able to study where we are now, where Judaism is now, in terms of what I'm calling, or what we have here as value concepts. And as I mentioned yesterday, with anything that I distribute, you're welcome to keep these sheets, if you'll take one and then just distribute them further back. Now the thing that's missing from this list is one more column. And if we had been doing this in a kind of a different setting, I would give you a pencil or a pen, or if you have, and you are interested in doing it, the column that's missing as you're looking at the page on the right side are each of these words, each of these ideas in Hebrew. The Hebrew is not here in Hebrew characters. But let's take a look at this idea. A value concept. Judaism is based on value concepts. Words that have matured into ideas that have examples, those examples which are really the very underpinning of Judaism. Look at the opening paragraph here. A value concept is a biblical idea found in the Tanakh or a behavioral pattern of a matriarch or patriarch or a prophet. A value concept, a biblical idea somewhere in the Jewish Bible, in the 39 books of the Jewish Bible, or it's a behavioral pattern by someone. Each value concept in Jewish tradition can be concretized into a deed or action which is then identified as a mitzvah. I said a few moments ago that we are not biblical Jews, but we do follow the biblical text from which we derive some behavioral examples of, for example, matriarchs or patriarchs. Sheldon used one example earlier when he talked about Abraham and Abraham in his tent. So just to expand that for a moment. Abraham has just circumcised himself. He is now in his tent and he's recuperating. He could have, if he was smart, have kept not the flaps up, but the flaps down. If the flaps would have been down, it would have been okay. He could have put a sign on the tent that said, recuperating, come back in 2 days. Leave me alone. Or he could have put the flaps up, as he did, and he could have put a little sign that said, free lemonade, take whatever you want, but please don't bother me. But that's not what the Torah says. The Torah says that he not only had the flaps up, but also gives us a weather report. It's the only weather report we have in the entire Torah. It was a hot day. The lemonade was not there. But the Torah says about Abraham, Vayaratz likratam. He ran out to greet them. He didn't let the three strangers just kind of lope over. He got up and went out. He was proactive in this mitzvah, rabbinic mitzvah, called Hachnasat Orchim. It is the fourth one on the list here, welcoming guests. He was proactive. He didn't sit back and he didn't put the flaps down. That's not a Torah mitzvah. That behavior, when we welcome someone to our home for a dinner, for whatever the occasion is, that is not one of the 613 commandments of the Torah. It's a rabbinic mitzvah. It's derived from his behavior. He simply behaved a certain way. Not only did he behave a certain way, but when these strangers came, he also gets himself up, says, stay, and he rushes off to Sarah. He gets them first a little milk and Oreos, and in the meantime, he says to someone else, could have been Ishmael, he could have said to him, listen, get the barbecue going. So after they relax a little, they'll take a shower, they'll have the milk and Oreos, then we're going to have a barbecue. That's how we also derive that Abraham and Sarah kept kosher. They had dairy first, then they must have brushed their teeth or waited a half an hour, and then they had fleshings. Because you're not allowed to mix milk and meat. So we derive that behavior from them. That's an example of a value concept. Welcoming people to your home, welcoming them, and then what you do with it. But again, it's not one of the 613, not one of the Taryag mitzvot. So let's go back to the top paragraph again. I see there are a few other folks who joined us. Let me just pause for a moment. Top paragraph still. Each value concept in Jewish tradition can be concretized into a deed or an action which is then identified as a mitzvah. This idea of a value concept which is concretized came from a professor at the Jewish Theological Seminary with whom I studied, Dr. Max Kedushin. He had this notion of value concepts. When you read the Torah, when you are studying the 5 books of Moses and the prophets, you have to look at the value concepts that come from their behavior. And from their behavior comes a concretization of your behavior, which then is added to in the rabbinic notion of Judaism.
Modeling? Is it like modeling?
like modeling, but their intention may not have been to model. It wasn't like they were saying, let me see how I can do something. Yes, we take them as role models through their examples, but we derive from that, we elevate that role model into a mitzvah. So again, these are rabbinic mitzvot. I finish at the top here. An evaluation of the value guides the life of the Jewish individual. Jews, we are rabbinic Jews. We follow the rabbinic text, which is the sages of the Mishnah, the sages of the Talmud, the sages who concretize the text when we take it over to the period of Maimonides, and then we go further to Joseph Carroll, the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, and the commentary of Rabbi Moshe Isserles, who's commenting on the Shulchan Aruch. And today, we're still building that system. That rabbinic system exists today. If you want to know, how do I kosher my microwave on Pesach, you can't go to the Torah. You can't go to the Talmud. You can find something that may be a precedent for you about how something can be kosher, either through heat or through water, different ways that something can happen. But ultimately, that question now becomes a rabbinic question. You ask a scholarly individual, a rabbi, someone who is knowledgeable in this particular area, who will say to you, this is what you do in order to kosher your microwave. Or you can't use your microwave, whatever the answer may be. So I'd like to take a look at some of these examples here and be able to show you how you are observant Jews, how you are religious Jews. So many people have said, I'm not religious. No kidding. What do you mean that you're not religious? Well, I don't pray. Oh, I don't do this, I don't do that. But mostly, I'm not religious. And I reject any Jew who says to me, that he or she says, I'm not religious. That there are values that underpin our lives that in fact make us very, very, very beautifully religious. Ethical and moral behavior, very often tied in with ritual, they come together. So let's take a look at this list here. And again, there's one column that's missing, which is the column where you could write in the Hebrew here. Number one, the value concept of tzedek. We have that right away in God's relationship to Abraham. Tzedek u'mishpat, those two words that come together, righteousness and justice. And I've put them here as 1 and 2. I think that is a basic underpinning. Again, we're going from rudimentary monotheism that Sheldon talked about, this basic monotheism, but we've matured it, we've sophisticated it, we've given texture to the text, and that's what makes it come alive. So tell me, how do you live out this idea about tzedek or tzedakah? How do you do that? And so but I want you to concretize it. Tell me what it is that you do that is the right thing. You give tzedakah. So it may be that you have a blue box. Right? You may have a pushka. You may be putting coins in there. At some point you empty out those coins. You write a check. You plant something, you buy something, you donate to some place.
How about always voting Democratic?
Always voting Democratic, no matter what. I'm not sure about that. Tomorrow or the day after, I'm going to go to my car and I'm going to bring out, I have in the car a bag of blue boxes, of tzedakah pushkins.
But they're white boxes.
But they're white now, right? And I invite you to take one. I already have one at home, so take two. Take two and call me in the morning. I invite you to do that. I contacted the Jewish National Fund and I asked them for 100 blue boxes. And we've been giving them out. So this is my last opportunity, and I hope that some of you, all of you, will take, and maybe there'll be other people who are not here as well. So that is the way of concretizing the value concept. When God says to Abraham, tzedek u'mishpat, justice and righteousness. So what is God talking about? So that's the way we concretize it. How else do we concretize it besides a pushka?
You do a good deed. You go to someone, you shop for a homebound person.
So we're going to come up with a whole series of of behavior that are interpersonal relationships. All right? If we think in terms of the Aseret HaDibra, the 10 Commandments, the first side of the 10 Commandments are referred to as Bein Adam Lamakom, between a human being and our relationship to God. And the second 5 are called Bein Adam L'Chaviro, between one person and another person. So Chai is giving us the whole category, and we're going to see more of that as that evolves. But the notion of doing the right thing, and tzedek and mishpat, righteousness and justice, will take place in the courtroom. So we have the Talmud, as the Talmud expands on the notion of mishpat, we have to have a justice system. So if 2 of us are going to court against each other, the judges should not be able to know mi ashir u mi ani, who is rich and who's poor. That's why, according to Jewish law, I would come into court wearing the same gown as you would, the 2 of us, so the judges don't know the difference, who's rich and who's poor. I put my case on the table, you put your case on the table, and it's determined. And we have and the Talmud is that expansion of the notion of mishpat, of how justice gets lived out. Look at the third one, derech eretz. We're going to talk more about derech eretz actually tomorrow, the day after. But the whole notion of behavior. I asked someone the other day, how do you translate derech eretz? And the person said to me, the way of the land. It's an idiom. Derech eretz means how you behave towards me, how I behave towards you, how I speak to you, the respect that I give to you, the respect that you have earned. I asked last night, I asked a few people to come to see if we could have a prayer service to have a minyan. And we got close. But close doesn't count. And actually, I went over to a couple of people. I said, please come in. And I said, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. And so what I received back, in my view, was a lack of derech eretz. A lack of derech eretz. I didn't say you have to open up a prayer book. Just put your body in the room. Now, we had, but we didn't have. We didn't have. And so that, to me, that's a part of the relationship, the derech eretz that's there. The fourth one is haknasat orchim, which we've been talking about. Abraham and Sarah are the prototypes of proper behavior in welcoming someone. You know, when someone comes to you for dinner, after dinner is over, or lunch, or whatever it is, you are obligated to escort them outside of your house. Take them down to the walk. You're not supposed to just say at the front door of your apartment or your house, bye, nice seeing you. Let me close this door. Get them out of here.
Let me make sure they really go, though.
You're supposed to walk them out. When I was living in Cedarhurst for a number of years, there was somebody who had invited me often for Friday night for Shabbat dinner. And this fella, he and his wife, but this fella, he would walk me halfway home. And I didn't understand why. I wasn't aware that what he was doing was fulfilling the continuation of Hachnasat Orchim. It's not how you welcome someone when they come in, but it's how you greet them and you escort them on the way out. We know how to escort people out when, God forbid, they pass away. We have to walk with the coffin. We have to be able to walk behind the coffin. We escort them. Sometimes we actually walk in the street. The coffin may be in a hearse. I knew there was a word. And we sometimes walk in the street behind the person. We know that sometimes we cannot go to the cemetery. We don't want to go. We don't know the person so well. But that's part of the whole notion of a relationship with people. All of this is about relationships. Number 5, mishpacha. The value concept of mishpacha. The value concept of mishpacha, of family. So tell me, how do you concretize that idea? It's a value concept. Are there any examples in the Torah of mishpacha? Avraham and Sarah, they have kids. Yitzchak and Rivka, they have kids. Yaakov and Rachel, they have children. Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava. You know who is, in my mind, not fulfilling his role as an effective father? Moshe. Not this Moshe, that Moshe. The real Moshe. He's not a good father. He's not there. He's a 24/7 guy. He is so busy working with God. His relationship with God is sometimes on, sometimes off. They don't always agree with each other. But there's a moment where Moshe's father-in-law, Yitro, brings Moshe's wife, Yitro's daughter, Tzipporah, and their 2 boys. And said, you haven't been with your kids. You don't put them to sleep. You don't take them to school. You don't read them stories. You don't watch TV with them. What, Moshe? You're not there. Moshe wasn't even there for the circumcision of at least one of his sons, maybe 2, as the Torah describes it. The Torah itself. Tzipporah does the circumcision. That tells us something about whether or not a woman can be a mohelet, a mohel, a moil. At least we have one example that's there. But it's about family and concern for family. And sometimes family breaks down. In the relationship between Joseph and his brothers, family breaks down. The boys, the sons, lied to their father about what happened to their brother. On the other hand, Joseph, for 22 years, doesn't send an email, a text, a phone call, a messenger, call up before Rosh Hashanah, say, Pop, I'm okay. I'm here, I'm stuck in Egypt. Can you send money? I get sometimes an email. Someone sends me I'm stuck here in Afghanistan, and can you send me money? So I know that I've been hacked into. But Yosef could have made a phone call somewhere. He's a big shot. He becomes number 2 in the country, head of the Department of Agriculture. And he couldn't go back for a moment. Now the story would have been very different. If we had not wound up in Egypt for those couple of 100 years, we wouldn't have left. If we wouldn't have left, we wouldn't have had Pesach. We didn't have Pesach, we wouldn't have gotten to Mount Sinai. We didn't get Mount Sinai, we wouldn't have gotten the 10 Commandments. You know what? Do it differently. God, you could have done it differently. So you can see mishpacha, or the lack of mishpacha. So now I learn. I learned from Joseph's brother's behavior that I have to pick up the phone and call my brothers. I have to say hello. I have to check in. My younger brother is much better at checking in with me than I am with him. His son is getting married in a couple of weeks. So I should pick up the phone and say, "No, how's everything going? Can I help you financially?" "No, I really don't want to help you financially." This is going to be an interesting wedding. It's a casual, get dressed up casually. If you come with a tie, you're not going to be allowed in. I'm not sure exactly what the casual part is. I know that I'm getting a vest. I'll have a nice shirt and slacks. I'm getting a vest. But I'm not going to wear a tie. And it's going to be in a fancy schmancy shul. It's going to be you should pardon me, in Cedarhurst in the 5 Towns. At the Sephardic Temple.
You better wear a tie.
No, it was very clear. But the point is about the importance of family. Let's continue on. Number 6, Jewish value concept. Tefillah, prayer. Prayer. Excuse me? Tefillah, the experience of prayer, the relationship between a human being and a sense of divinity. The sense of divinity. Sometimes that can happen in the quiet of a room. This morning at our minyan, there was Professor Friedman and my friend and me. We had a minyan of 3.
But then it's not a minyan.
A minyan of 3 is called a mezuzah. We could have done, if we were eating, we could have done Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals. But you know what? In the quiet of the synagogue, the quiet of the room, there's a different kind of experience. But the experience of tefillah, of prayer, is so vital. My father passed away in 1961. I was 16 years old. My brothers were 12 and a half and 7. When I was younger than that, probably 5 or 6 years old, my father taught me a very, 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 very short grace after meals called Borei Nefashot. It's a quickie. It's a quickie. Takes maybe 10 seconds if I'm going slowly. Just to say, thank you. I remember as a teenager, I first heard someone say, well, if you ate and you enjoyed what you have, all you have to do is say, rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, yay God. That's a really short Birkat Hamazon. That's a short grace after meals. But this was called Borei Nefashot. And I took that with me. And when my children were born, I taught it to them. I have a very dear friend, and every time we go out for dinner, every time we're having dinner together, we do a fill. My father's name was Philip. We do a fill. We do a Borei Nefashot. Even if we're not doing the full Birkat Hamazon, we're just being appreciative of the food. I like lunch today. I like the fish and I like the rice.
Yes.
Of course, there were 2 kinds of rice. There was rice and then there was dessert rice.
Yeah.
But I like the rice pudding also. So I'm appreciative of that. I didn't start off with hamotzi. It wasn't a hamotzi lecha min haaretz bread meal. So I didn't have to do the long or the full grace after meals, but I can be thankful through experience of prayer. For us, prayer is at all kinds of moments. If God forbid there's a death, there's a little prayer. There are prayers, there are brachot, blessings, for all kinds of moments. Many years ago, I was traveling on the West Coast, I was working, and my daughter Ilana flew out to meet me. And we were in Los Angeles, and we were driving down to San Diego. And suddenly, as we were driving down, torrential rain. Torrential rain, it's pouring down, and then it's gone, and the sun is out, and rainbow.
Heavens to purgatory.
Rainbow. And she recited the bracha. And all I had to do was say, Amen. You know, that's a word from the Beatles, Amen. Let it be, let it be, Amen, Amen. Amen means let it be, I agree. Yeah, I got the other side of it. So the experience of prayer, which I find in my experience as a rabbi around North America, that prayer is one of the most difficult parts of the Jewish experience, because having a connection with God is not an easy part of my life. Maybe for you too. So prayer. But you know, I won't know if it's going to happen, if I'm going to feel something, unless I give it a try. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to try that. Prayer as a value concept which gets concretized. Morning, afternoon, evening, a little blessing, moments of life, moments of passing, moments of celebration. We're all familiar with Shehachiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman haseh. We thank God for keeping us alive and bringing us to this moment. The Shehachiyanu is a beautiful moment. The birth of a child, the birth of a grandchild or a great-grandchild. All kinds of moments that are special. Number 7, another value concept. Again, value concepts are always terms, idea, words. Kihila, creating a kihila. That's really what I want to try to do when I come here to Berkshire Hills, is to try to create a sense of a community. We study together, we pray together, we eat together. That's the goal. That's the goal. And it's very challenging sometimes. This is one of those challenging weeks. Week 2 here, when we were here, was a different kind of opportunity. So how do we open the door for our brothers and sisters who are from the former Soviet Union to feel comfortable to come in and to study with us, to come in and to pray with us? How do we create a real sense of Kihila? Will it wait till Shabbat? Will it even happen on Shabbat? Will we dress differently? Will we speak differently? Will we actually come together? That remains to be seen, and that's a challenge for us. Let's do a couple more and bring this together. Number 8, teshuvah, the notion of change. Only you, Y-O-U, can make a U-turn. So if, for example, I'm behaving in a particular way, but I know that the way that I'm behaving is not the best, not the most appropriate, then only I can make a change. Only I can make a U-turn. Only you can make a U-turn. I could teach something to you, you could teach something to me, you could share something, and I can say, oh, wow, yeah, I understand that. Thank you. Thank you. I can change. Teshuvah is not only a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur idea. That's not the only time I can say, I have not been the best that I can be. It actually is every day. Every day. In part of the prayer experience, in the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva. Bring me back. We're going to see that on Saturday night as part of the Tisha B'Av service. The last line in the book of Lamentations, in the book of Echa, is, God, bring us back. Bring us back to you. Bring us back to Jerusalem. Bring us back to Jewish ideas and Jewish values. Number 9. Actually, Chaim brought us to this towards the beginning of our discussion. Number 9, Gemilut Chesed. Gemilut Chesed, acts of loving kindness. So give me examples of acts of loving kindness.
Visiting the hospital.
Visiting someone in the hospital, right? Bikur Cholim, right? What else?
Anything that you're doing for a person is
Something that you do for someone else. But I want to be specific, Jewishly specific. So Bikur Cholim is one. Menachem Avel, to visit when someone is a mourner, is sitting Shiva. All right? When someone is getting married, to be at the wedding, to be Misameh Chatan B'Kala, to celebrate with the bride and groom. All of those are the way in which we concretize acts of Gemilut Chesed, acts of loving kindness. It's the interpersonal part. What does the interpersonal part have to do with God? Well, I want to suggest to you that our relationship with other people and with God is on 2 levels. One is on the horizontal level. Horizontal is between you and me. The other is the vertical relationship between me and God. And when I take the horizontal and the vertical and I put them together, if I have the horizontal, look, the horizontal, and I have the vertical, I have the beginning of the word love. I have the L. Horizontal and vertical. Last night we watched a little bit of the Olympics and we saw the horizontal. Those great American gymnasts on the uneven horizontal bar. On the, what are the things
balance
called?
beam.
Right, on the balance beam. It's a horizontal bar. We watch that. So we see that in our physical activities, and we see that in our relationships. Number 10, Talmud Torah. All of this is built on learning. I'm too old to learn. I'm too old to learn anything new. I don't want to change. I want to just be, I'm happy with who I am. So I don't need to learn anything else. Now that's exactly not what we are saying. We are here, we're sitting in this room, and in all kinds of ways, everything that we're learning has a basis in the notion of Talmud Torah, of learning together. Number 11, Tikkun Olam. Gloria made the comment, someone came over to her and said to her, how do you say Tikkun Olam in Hebrew? Right? When I translate Tikkun Olam, I translate it as repairing the tears and the tears in the world. Same spelling, tears and tears. Repairing the tears in the world, taking away people's tears, and taking away the tears, sewing up the tears. You know, when you sit Shiva for a loved one, and particularly for a parent, the tear that is made on the garment is that it has to be in a place that cannot be repaired. It cannot be sewn up where you can't see it. You can't do it on the seam of a pocket. You can do it in the middle, but you can, so that when you sew it up, or you discard it, if you discard it, it's gone. But if you sew up that garment, you will always know that the tear is there. I've only been in the hospital twice. Each time, they wanted to fix something up on either side here. What is that called?
A hernia.
A hernia. And it was 35 years ago. But I can still touch the repair that's there. Tikkun Olam has become really very kind of popularized in the Jewish world, where everything we do, we're buying food for someone, we're getting food, we're doing clothing for someone, we're doing all kinds of things, and all of that comes in the category of Tikkun Olam, and that's okay. But number 12 is really even more important, because number 12 is the basis under which number 11 takes place. Number 12 is the notion of Darchei Shalom, paths of peace. There's a tractate of the Talmud, in the tractate called Gittin, dealing with divorce, that talks about Darchei Shalom. Because, amongst other things, any time a marriage is ended, any time there is going to be the dissolution of a relationship, we still need to be able to help those parties in Darchei Shalom, in paths of peace. That people should be able to walk away and become as shalem, as whole and complete as possible. That's what the word shalom is. Shalom, shalem, complete, total. Paths of peace. And Darchei Shalom is also used in the Talmud in our relationship with non-Jews. That sometimes you do something mipnei Darchei Shalom, because of paths of peace. You not only, the Talmud says, you not only visit a Jew who's not well, but you also visit a non-Jew who's not well. You not only go to the funeral of a Jew, but you go to the funeral of a non-Jew. Why? Mipnei Darchei Shalom. Because my next door neighbor has been my friend. I look at him over the bushes. We've spent years together, and there are different kinds of things that we can share, or moments that Mipnei Darchei Shalom. Some things we don't do. We don't do. But some things we do. Mipnei Darchei Shalom. It's a great phrase. Darchei Shalom. Paths of peace. Number 13. Ahava. Again, two ways. Horizontal and vertical. Horizontally, my relationship with other people. The whole holiday, the whole observance, it's not a holiday, the whole observance of Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av. The rabbis teach that the reason that the second temple was destroyed was not because the Jews weren't observant or studying Torah, because of something that they call sinat chinam, baseless hatred, free will hatred. I hate you simply because you are. And Rav Kook speaks on the other frame, and he says the way you compensate for sinat chinam, hating someone for no particular reason, is ahavat chinam. Loving someone, caring about someone for no particular reason. Just free will, caring, and love. That notion. So that it's on the horizontal relationship, and we learn ahavat olam. We have a relationship with God, which we hope is going to be in a loving relationship. Number 14, kavod, respect. Every person deserves to have kavod. Every person has the right to be respected, to be honored. When you have an honor to the Torah, you receive a kibud. That word is used in many ways. Kavod. Kavod la Torah. Kavod in life. And then let me finish up here, these last few. Lashon hara, gossip, bad tongue. That fits in again to Tisha B'Av. That's the sinat chinam, saying something about someone else that may not be true. But if I say it to Raz, and Raz listens to it, she goes, oh, delicious. And then she tells it to you, 3 people have now been affected. We talked about you, and you didn't know it, We talked about you and we know it. I, the sayer, you, the listener, and you for whom it was said. Lashon hara is one of the great areas that all of us have a lot of work to do on. That value concept has concretized. It's a great scholar named the Chafetz Chaim, who loved peace, and he wrote on the whole question about Lashon hara, bad tongue. Number 16, tzniut, a value concept, modesty. Now sometimes we think of tzniut only as dress. It's how long my skirt is, how much of my shoulders are being shown, and we have different kinds of ideas in different parts of our Jewish community. How much I have to wear, how I dress, and modesty is an important dimension. When I watched the Olympics last night, both the girls that were doing the gymnastics and the women who were swimming, I would not call their swim apparel particularly modest. Well, it's okay for the water. And it's perfect for the water. And it should be that way in the water. But that may not be the appropriate way for my daughters or my friends or my acquaintances to go to the beach that way, with tushies hanging out. And however, so it's part of it is dress, but tzniut also is modesty in language. Modesty in language that takes back to the Lashon Hara. When I was in the 9th grade, I was only 13 and a half years old at that time, and I was easily influenced by some of the older guys. So we'd go out to play ball during a break, and there was one particular guy, and I remember that every word, the adjective for the word, started with an F. So I started picking that up. If he's so cool and he uses all those words. Now sometimes it's an okay word to use, and sometimes not. But modesty in language is also very important. 17 and 18 are flip-flops of each other. Shtika and dibor. Sometimes better just not to speak. Better sometimes quiet, silence. Sometimes you're in a setting where you know that if you say something, it's going to aggravate, agitate, intimidate. It's not the right place. On the other hand, dibor, to speak up. Yes, there is a time to speak up. There's a time to say, that's wrong. That's not what I believe. And we have both of those concepts within the framework of our Jewish tradition. And 19 and 20 also go together. 19, I only gave you a little bit of the phrase, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. There can be a dispute between people, and you, Elu divarim, these are your words and these are your words. Both of them, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim, they are the words of the living God. That is, we can have a legitimate difference of opinion. I'm not talking about an election now. That's not what we're talking about. Raz is about to get up here and to move us into current events. But it's not about current events. It is about a legitimate difference of opinion in matters of Jewish law. Hillel and Shammai argued all the time. And almost always we follow Hillel, who was the lenient interpreter of Jewish law. Sometimes, very few times, we follow Shammai. You know the classic one about Hanukkah, where Hillel says we're going to light 1 candle the first night, 2, 3, 4, and the last night of the 8 days, 8. Shammai says, no, do 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shammai makes good sense. Every day there's a little less oil. So instead of doing 8, I should do 7. I should do 6. I should do 5. Both of them, the only place we're going to meet is somewhere around 4 and 5. Or at least crisscross around that moment. So we have legitimate discussions and differences within the Jewish community. We can argue. We can do that with kavod, with respect. Elu divrei chayim, but, number 20, again as a value concept, sofo shel davar means bottom line, you gotta make a decision. At the end of the day, you can't just say, well, we have a nice dispute, So Hillel and Shammai had nice disputes. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Ishmael had nice disputes. But after the disputes are over, so tell me, how am I supposed to live? So if you know anybody on Hanukkah who lights 8 candles the first night and 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then you should just tell them, we don't follow that position. We made a decision about 2,000 years ago, and we'd like you to be in step with us. Ultimately, at the end of the week, do you know how many candles we light? Total? 36. Not counting the 8 shamashim. 8 times the shamash. So 36 candles. Twice high, okay, however you'd like to understand it. But we had to make a decision. So Judaism is based on the value concept that while we can have a difference of opinion, we also have to make decisions so that we can become a kihila. All of these terms intermingle. All of them work together to create the Jewish community. Value concepts that are concretized, that make us the most brilliant and wonderful people on God's earth. Thank you all.
Amen.
Why don't you tell us what FIDF stands for?
It says Friends of the IDF.
I know. Friends of what? The Israeli?
Israeli Defense Force.
Okay.
You're welcome. You're welcome to keep the sheets, or if you're not going to keep them, then